Welcome to UnPromoted, the sales development podcast. This week's guest, I'm super excited about. We get to hear from someone who has 5+ years of sales development leadership experience. He's been a part of IPOs and building programs from scratch. He's currently a senior SDR manager, and he's one of my favorite LinkedIn personalities, Jesse Gittler. All right. Welcome, Jesse.
Hey, my man. How we doing?
Not too bad up here. I just got 2 feet of snow up here in Canada. So we were talking before. I know you're not jealous of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in sunny LA. You know, being coming from New York, I don't miss those days at all. I know the country's getting hit in weird parts right now. Texas has, hundreds of thousands of people out of power. It's just insane.
Yeah, man, I spent my morning digging out of snow, so I'd rather be in LA, that's for sure.
It's a good workout, though.
Yeah, it definitely is. Listen, man, thanks for coming on. I know you were interested in coming on podcasts and stuff earlier in the year, so I think I caught you at the right time. Mm-hmm. And really excited to talk to you today. We're going to get into the SDR mindset, but before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So, happy to be here. I was just, I'm trying to get more podcasts, trying to just get more involved in these type of things. So I appreciate, you hitting me up. But a little bit about me. Born and raised in New York. I'm currently working in California, in LA, for a company called Patient Pop. Really, really great company. But kind of how I got started. I graduated in 2011, went to SUNY Albany, majored in finance, management, not like one of these people that's going to say, yeah, I'm this born salesperson or sales leader and I wanted to get into sales and here's my story on how I did that. Honestly, out of college, it was like a recession. It was hard to get a job and, I tried to do my own thing for a while and, start my own company with a couple of my buddies. And then I kind of was like, I really need some health insurance, right? And I was like, let me get into a company where I can get some health care. So I got lucky enough. One of my friends worked at a great company called Varonis, which is data security. And, for an SDR position, I had no idea what an SDR does. No clue. I went up in there and they took a chance on me. And, I remember early on, I didn't book a demo in the first 2 days. And I remember walking back from the train because I would take the train into Manhattan from Long Island where I grew up. It was an hour each way. And I was doing the dark to dark thing, where I didn't see any daylight. You know what I mean? Because I would take the 5:14 train and then I would take the 6:14 train back. So I remember this specific moment though where there was snow on the ground. So now that you mention it, it brings it back. And I was talking to my friend via text and I'm just I don't know if I could actually do this. Booking 2 meetings a day was the quota, what they expected. And I couldn't even, and just the thought of having to do that every day and thinking long term instead of thinking what I have to do right now brought a lot of doubt in my mind. But, that was really the last time I doubted myself in the job. I went in extra early the next day. I kind of leaned into it. I went crazy and, booked something like eight demos or something like that. Kind of really just put my head down, made a lot of dials, really just focused on my work. I wasn't there really to, make friends or socialize or being part of some sort of, pact of any kind. Really just wanted to, do well. And, I wanted to be an account executive. That was what people told me to do. You're in sales, SDR, that's the traditional, movement. So I voiced that to my manager and, I was on task for that, of course. But something I did do early on in my career, which kind of led me into my management role, was when I first joined. I remember being in a room full of veterans, and I was a new hire, and they were someone would speak in front of the room, and I was damn, I was nervous and intimidated, and I was I'm not going to be able to ever do that. I felt so out of touch as a new hire. I didn't know what we did. These kids were talking about everything that they have accomplished and just so far ahead of me. And as I started to get better at the role, I started to look at more new hires come in, right? And I saw those same faces. And I said, you know what? Out of just my own instinct, I just went and helped them. Joining a new job in a new company is hard. It's scary. you know, like you don't know anybody, you're doing a new thing. It's, particularly sales dev. It's like right out of college, So I started to help these new hires, and my manager kind of saw this. And when it came time to be promoted, they didn't have any territories open for me to move into account executive role. So they were like, do you want to be a manager? So I had to kind of think about it for a while, because this wasn't on my it wasn't on my mind. And, I ended up taking the job, and it was difficult early on because I kind of, I had to manage a team of people who kind of wanted my job, like who I kind of jumped the gun on, and it was uncomfortable, and I grew a lot in that first couple of months and crushed it, best team on the floor. Ended up getting recruited, going to like a small startup company where I like built out the process. I managed closers, closed business, kind of got, a taste of it all. Really fell in love with the sales dev part. So ended up going through some major stuff in New York. My father passed away. And I wanted like a new change, a new situation. So, it was kind of like a God shot where I had this, grateful opportunity to come out to Santa Monica. I interviewed with Patient Pop, walked around. I fell in love with the vibe. I was like, if I get this job, I'm jumping on a plane the next day. And that, pretty much happened. And, it's by far the best job I've ever had, best product, process, people, just, amazing things we're doing. And it's really fun, helping people get better.
Yeah, man, I think a lot of us, especially in sales or any part of the sales org, can probably jump on the same boat as you. Like when we jumped in, nobody goes to college and says, I want to be a sales guy. At least if they have, I haven't met them yet. And when they first get that role, I was the exact same way. Jumped into an SDR role, took the offer. My story's a little bit different, but I needed a job because my daughter was on the way.
Oh, congrats.
And she was born when I was 3 weeks into an entry level SDR role. So I was in a similar boat where I was like, I need some health insurance. I got to get something going.
Right.
And was doing the 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. travels, but I had no idea what I was getting into. When you're first new to the role, they sort of hit you with some of the high level stuff you're going to be doing, but you don't really know what you're getting into until you've been there.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, these days, it's different now. Like this was 7-8 years ago now. I mean, I don't even know where the time goes, but like now people are like, there's more classes for this. Like sales dev is one of the best ways to get into a company and grow your career. Like where else can you make $100,000 if you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, you're not in finance, and you're, your first year out of college? Like I have SDRs making $100,000 a year, and a lot of times we're interviewing people now that go to certain programs that to prep them for the SDR world. So I think more now than ever, it's kind of becoming mainstream where it's like, okay, here's what I know, what I want, which is interesting also. And we could talk on that a little bit, but back then it was like kind of, just get me in the door somewhere.
I think even now, more so than even 2 or 3 years ago, even the online resources where you can just look things up, take online classes, even podcasts, there's just more resources, at least about sales development, if not about sales as a whole. So I think you're right. There's a lot more transparency, at least today, than there was even a couple of years ago, let alone 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
I know when I was in school, I was like, I do not want to end up as a used car salesman. And here I am. So,
yeah, I mean, I went to finance. I went to school for finance. I wanted to be like a businessman, like I had no idea. Like I wanted to make money and be important. Like it's crazy. It's crazy how your mind and your views of things kind of change as you grow up.
Yeah, man. Let's get into it. I specifically wanted to talk to you about mindset because I know this is something that you've been advocating on, something that you've been posting a lot about on LinkedIn. So can you give us like Jesse's definition of mindset?
Yeah, for sure. And, mindset is, I mean, it speaks for itself, right? And now more than ever with the way of the world and the way things are going and all the work from home remote stuff is, it's so crucial to come in with the right perspective. The actual definition of mindset is an established set of attitudes held by somebody, and we could break that down. And many people have like long definitions of what they think people's mindset should be. For me, it's pretty simple, and this is kind of my whole approach to sales and my whole approach to management is just simplify things. So when I talk about what mindset is to me, it's about becoming a better person, right? It's about growing in that direction, because if you can become a better person, if I could help you become a better person, I could help you become a better salesperson. So it's kind of like growing at all costs, right? Now, I can deal with pretty much anything in the world if the net positive is growth, right? So like frustration of any kind, just not making a lot of money or money that I need to make, commuting to work, whatever it is, all day calendar meetings. If I'm growing as a person and as a sales rep, say, then I'll deal with that. And those are the kind of people that I like to recruit too, that work well with me. Also,
it ties back in. Oh,
yeah. Also, just to add into that, one more thing I should mention is that early on, right? When I first joined sales team, I was this obsessed competitor and fierce, losers, you're a loser, right? If you don't win, you're a loser. And, it led me to a lot of fleeting moments because I would win and be like, okay, and now I just got to go win again, right? So it's for me now, part of my mindset is also, it's the will to win, right? Putting in the work in that process opposed to actual outcome.
Yeah. I was just going to say it ties back to if you've read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, it ties back to the suffering you choose.
Yeah. What are you willing to suffer for? Yeah.
Yeah. The suffering is manageable so long as you're okay with the end result.
Right.
And so I know this is something I think about a lot, but why is mindset so important, specifically when it comes to sales development?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about sales development, and a lot of what I hear these days are people who want to join Patient Pop or for other companies is, and this is controversial in a way, and a lot of what I write on LinkedIn and things like that, it's all perspective too. You could read something one way, right? And that's kind of why I write things, is because to kind of give the reader the ability to kind of perceive it. But when it comes to mindset, a lot of people join companies now because they're passionate about the product or because they love the industry, and that's why they want to sell this product. They want to sell this product, and don't get me wrong, it's important, right? If you like what you sell, you understand what you sell, and you love the industry, you're going to be better at it. But let's not get it twisted. I've sold things that I hate, right? And it's not a prerequisite for doing good in the job. And my thing about this, and when it comes to mindset, is that I'll challenge people who say that they want to sell only something that they love or they're passionate about the company, is because, okay, in 90 days or so, right? Passionate for the product, yes. First day, second day, first week, second week, I love selling this, yeah. Okay, 90 days in, when you hit that brick wall and you can't get in touch with a decision maker, and you become less passionate about the product, are you then going to walk away? Is you going to leave the company now? Is this something you're not interested in anymore because you joined for the passion? So I actually consider it a bit of a yellow flag with a little bit of an asterisk when someone says that they just want to join for that. The other side is when you do hit that brick wall, what is going to get you through? And that is mindset. That is the way that you think about things. The motivational clips and all those things are great, right? They'll give you a jolt on Monday morning, or meditation and things like that. We could touch on that more. But for me, it's inspiration, right? It's inspiration to have a growth mindset, right? Because you're going to hit this brick wall. You're going to go through so much struggle early on in sales dev, no matter who you are. You cannot test out for game speed, right? Game speed is game speed. You can talk about it. You can expect it. You can write about it. But when you get in there, and I'm not talking the first day, second day, first week, second week. It's when you hit that 45-day mark and you're alone and no one knows you, no one cares you're new anymore, and you got to make those calls. Passion for the product's not getting you through that, you know? So you got to have the right attitude going in. You got to want to become somebody who doesn't quit, who wants to push through, who's not dedicated, or who's not, correlated directly with the outcome, where it's about more of the process, and you want to grow as a human being and gather tools to become better in certain areas of your life, not just at booking demos. So I think it's so important, because if you don't have that when you're coming in, and you have a different expectation of what the role is, you won't make it, and even if you try, you'll be miserable, and nothing's worth that.
Yeah. Sales development is hard, man. Like when you're just starting out, trying to get in touch with decision makers, not every day is going to go the way you want it. You talked about it earlier. You start off booking no demos. Some days are just bad. And so that's where it comes in, where you have to have, the mindset and the will to win to be able to, pick yourself up off the floor when you can't get a hold of anybody, bounce back, and exactly like you said, not let the passion for the product or whatever fade and you just want to quit after 90 days, because you're never going to run into a situation where your day is good every day.
Exactly. And we're playing a game of failure, right? So the expectations of that are so important. So when you think about mindset, it's like, okay, expect to lose. Expect, like my team all the time tells me, like, we sell marketing to doctors. We help doctors get more patients and stuff like that. My team will call me up or text me and say, this doctor, they confirmed 10 times and this is great. There's so much pain in this, and they didn't show up for the demo. And they're shocked still. And I'm like, they're doctors, right? They're actual doctors, and you're calling them, right? And you're cold calling them. And it's like, expect them not to show up, right? And that's a hard thing to do. That is a decision you need to make in your mind, that it's like, I'm going to expect to fail almost, or that I can do everything correctly and still fail. Like baseball, right? You know exactly what pitch is coming, right? You time it perfectly. You take a great swing. You hit the ball on the nose. It's right to the first baseman. And, in the box score, that's an out. But, like, your team's still dapping you up. You're still going to take the exact same approach next time, right? So it's really about expectations, too.
I literally wrote something on this a couple of weeks ago about how sales or sales development were professional losers, and compared it to baseball. And I know you'll appreciate it because you got
Love
the
it.
Yankee hat on.
Yeah.
But the whole batting 300 thing, like if you're at 30%, you're world class. It's the same in sales, man. Even if you're booking 30% of your calls, like you're probably an all-star on your team, which means 7 of those are failures.
Right. And like I left a funny post about this on LinkedIn. I'll probably repost it, honestly, because my network's much bigger now. But put it like this. If an alien, just stay with me for a second. If an alien came down, right, to Earth and got dropped on a baseball diamond and decided to play baseball, right? And this alien, got 1,000 swings, had 1,000 at bats, and failed, struck out 60% of the time or 70% of the time, right? So he was getting a hit, it's batting 300. He would be like, this shit is hard, number one. Okay. And then he would go back up to his alien spaceship and say, I'm never playing baseball again. I am terrible at it. Right? I failed 70% of the time. And when you think about it, it's the same thing with sales. It's the expectations, right? I like to tell my team as a joke when they first start, nothing works. Right? Nothing works. Like let's just get that out of the way right now. Nothing works. We're cold calling. It's one of the hardest things you have to do. But so back to the story, right? If the alien were to have a quick lesson and say, like, here's what everyone's doing. Here's the average. Here's what's supposed to happen. And as you mentioned, right? World class. I mean, Hall of Fame. You're a Hall of Famer if your career average is 300, right? And that means you're failing 70% of the time. So same thing as an SDR. If you come in thinking you're going to book a meeting every single day and you don't, do you go back to your room and say, I'm terrible? No, you have to know about the expectations. You have to put those in your mindset. So it's a good point, yeah.
And I know you alluded to it earlier with the meditation, but what are some of the things that you do or some of the things that you teach your team about, perspective, mindset, context?
Yeah. Right. So look, meditation. When we were in the office, I've been playing Monday motivation videos for my team for 5 years. Right. Like there's a reason why I do that. They're great, but like most things in life, they're fleeting. Where you'll get that jolt or that I'm feeling great. You get hung up on. You're like, what the? I got to go watch this video again. And it doesn't have the same punch. So you know, meditations are important too, present moment stuff. But in my opinion, get someone in the right mindset, and kind of how I preach to my team is you really just need to decide, right? It's a decision that you need to make. There's two real types of mindset. It's either you're in a fixed mindset, right, where you just believe your abilities are the way that they are, right? You can't really change them. The world is the way it is. You can't really change it. And you're kind of a victim. And then there's, the growth mindset, where it's like you're a sponge for learning. You want to get better in everything you do, and you're going to put in the work to do that. And when you think things can't get better, like when you're in a fixed mindset and you think like this is the way it is, life becomes very anxious. It's very stressful. So it comes down to the story that you tell yourself, right? It comes down to literally that voice in your head, what you're telling yourself you can and cannot do.
So I'm just thinking out loud here, but do you have like something you'd recommend for somebody that, maybe they're in a fixed mindset, it's maybe not the natural them, but you want to get them back into that growth mindset? Is there like a strategy or something you tell them to look into?
Yeah, I mean, we see this all the time, and a lot of my team will tell you like we go deep into philosophy and to a lot of I'm big into that, into the meaning and the reason of many things. But I think the first thing for getting people into the right mindset is leading by example, right? Like I have to do that. I have to show the team that I believe that things can get better, that I believe that things can change, and that has a tremendous effect. The second thing, as I mentioned, is the story you tell yourself, right? And the voice inside your head, right? And it's constantly saying negative things. You can't do this. You're not good enough. These leads are all terrible. Why am I here? I'm not making any money, right? And the first thing to know, and it's a little deep, right? And it's important to grasp, though, is that voice inside your head is not actually who you are. That voice inside your head does not define you. My dad always used to say something to me and my sisters where, my sisters are I'm an emotional guy, right? I could admit that off the bat. My sisters are even more emotional. And they'd always freak out about certain things. I can't do this. I can't go on. And, this is terrible. This is that. And my dad would say, what's your record against that? What's your lifetime record on I can't go on, right? That shit is undefeated. You are undefeated against that voice, against that noise. So the most important thing to know with that is, you're not that voice. Who are you then? You're the observer of that voice, right? You're the witness of all things. You sit behind and you kind of see those feelings and those voices come in, and it doesn't mean you reject them, right? That's also a bad thing. Like, oh, you can't do this. No, like reject. That's not good either. It's accepting them through, but understanding it's not who you are. And then once you understand that, you can make a decision and you have more power over what comes in and how you deal with it. One strategy, a simple one, is just to add yet to everything, right? So I can't cold call yet. I can't get promoted yet. I'm not great yet, right? And that puts you by default from fixed to growth, right? Because everybody needs to be taught things. Everybody needs to learn. Everybody can learn. Everybody can become better. And I think it's so important to grasp those couple of things. And it goes deep, and we could have another podcast about that. But I think that's huge. And then also just practicing what you preach, like setting the intention, of, doing things intentionally to grow and to help yourself.
Dude, that is some powerful advice. Yet, I
Yeah.
love that.
Right.
And your dad's question, what's your record? Dude, I was guilty of this a month ago. Um, my my big thing is I worry about hypotheticals. It's just a thing. Until somebody was like, "How often do your hypotheticals actually happen?" And I was like, "Yeah, almost never." And so it's the exact same thing. It's so powerful. It's like, oh wait, I'm spending all my time stressing out about this. It's literally never happened. So I'm creating like a barrier for myself that it wouldn't exist if I didn't create it.
Right. What you're doing is you're blocking the good energy from coming in, right? You're blocking it, and it stems from that voice. And I challenge anybody that's listening to this to literally just tally it up. Like, that's a losing record. Like, you know what I mean? If you listen to what your voice says sometimes, and the thing is, we identify so much with that voice. Like, it's who you are. So you're like, you don't want it to be wrong at times, because nobody wants to be wrong. Everybody wants to be right. So once you kind of disconnect from what that voice is, and you realize that you're just kind of in the back seat observing, then you'll be able to just experience life in such a better way.
Dude, that's huge. That is huge. And it kind of ties into a little bit of the mental health aspect. And so I'm not sure if you posted on this or talked about this a lot. But why do you think that, mental health perspective is so important, especially in the SDR world? Because I know it's at the forefront right now. But I think it always should have been.
Yeah. And it goes hand in hand, man. This is something that I encourage and challenge all leaders of all types to start talking more about. Mental health is, now more than ever, with people being locked down and suffering from depression before these types of things, and anxiety, and having to cold call strangers, right? If you think about that, you have to cold call strangers, and you come in there and you're feeling great. Like, you know exactly what you're going to do, and you say the right things, and you get told to fuck off, and they hang up on you. And all of a sudden, all those good feelings, all that preparation, you just feel terrible. And you could tailspin on that, right? So, like, mental health for sales dev, they should be a class on it, right? Like, I've spoken to my boss, KD. Like, we want to incorporate this more as, like, a fundamental of our org, right? Like, where, when we were in the office, we used to do morning meditations, and we made that shit mandatory. Maybe that's something I can't say, but, like, I tell my team, like, you get mandatory, right? Like, because most of the time we don't know what's good for us, right? And we need someone to push us to that. So when it comes to mental health, it's opening up and talking to somebody, and with the way of the world and the pandemic and all the struggles, it's more important now than ever.
Dude, we used to do meditation in the mornings as a result of Katie on the Outreach podcast.
Oh, really?
Like, I was listening to it one morning on the way to work, and then I sent it to my boss, and I was like, we got to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because, well, you're right. When you're in the office, man, somebody tells you to fuck off, you can bounce the energy off the team, get
Right.
back into it really quickly. When it's just me sitting here with my thoughts and the hypotheticals coming in, and it's like, oh shit, maybe I'm terrible at cold calling. You gotta tally up that voice in your head thing. And
Yeah.
so, like I said, mental health is at the forefront right now. At least I'm seeing it a lot, but I feel like it should have been like always.
It should have been, and here's the thing with that, right? Like, it's getting more in this direction. And here's something that I try to lead is, let's make it cool, right? Like, everybody wants to be cool. Let's not front. Like, that's just the way it is. Everybody wants to be hip. Everybody wants to be cool. Let's make mental health cool. Let's start talking about our feelings. Let's start accepting that we're not okay, and let's start working on ourselves, right? And the more people do that, the more people will follow. So, like, you're right. It should have been. I think it's getting better. It's not there yet. It's mental health over everything. Like, it's the foundation of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what advice can you give to any sales development reps, that might be struggling with mindset, or looking for that step into growth mindset, to just become better reps?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first thing is you got to make a choice, right? Do you want to be do you want this to control you, or do you want to control it? And that is much easier said than done. But when it comes to the actual role, and when it comes to mental health, taking intentional breaks is huge, right? And this is something I'm still working on. I'll go the entire day in front of my computer on the phone. It'll whiz by, and I'm like, yo, where did the time go? I feel like I'm like radioactive from like being on all these Zooms and all this internet in my face. And I tell my team, and something I need to just do more is like put that 10-minute break on, and take it. Stop. Like it doesn't matter what you did beforehand. Oh, I didn't get the meeting, or I didn't call as many people, so I can't take that intentional break. That's not how it is. That's not how it should be. Second thing I think is being proactive with burnout, right? Like I took a mental health day yesterday, actually. Like I've never done that in my entire life, and I've used to have this mentality like I would never take time off. I'm this workhorse. You could count on me, and like that's who I am, and like I identified with that, and still part of my ego is like that. But I was feeling a little burnt out, feeling a little down. I needed an extra day, and I did it, right? And I feel great today. So I think being proactive with that, making vulnerability cool. Like let's make vulnerability cool, man. Print the hats and the t-shirts. Like it starts with like managers, right? It starts with leaders. I'm very vulnerable and open with my team, maybe too much, but that's just the way that I am, and they see that, right? And then they know that it's okay to come to me with things that are on their mind, and we talk about deep personal stuff. I think make PTO cool, like pay time off. I still can't grasp this idea where like like my reps will ask me, can I take PTO? And I'm just like, it's yours, right? Like it's your time to take. Like I get it, like respect the rules and give me 2 weeks and stuff like that, and I appreciate it, but you earned it, so take the days. Meditating, right? We talked on that. Journaling is huge. Reading is one thing that I use as a form of meditation. It takes you out of your voice, takes you out of your own head. And a big thing, a very, very big thing, very underrated thing is exercising, is getting your body moving. And like, I can't stress it enough. And something that's so difficult now with the gyms closed, and like just not access to as many, things to do. And I have this home workout that I try to do, but I don't enjoy it as much, so I avoid it. But every time I do work out, my thoughts are cleaner. I feel more positive and confident. So I got into an argument with, I forgot who it was, but early on when we were still in the office, like I wanted to say like, what if we made everybody work out before the day started? Like we made it mandatory. Like I know there's so many rules in HR and all that, and I was like 80% serious, but like imagine we had a place like that where like you had to work out, and like there were showers and whatnot. We did it safe, and I don't know. I think that results would go up, and people would be in a better headspace.
Dude, HR is going to be all
Yeah,
over
yeah,
you
they
with
already are.
mandatory meditation
They already
and
are.
mandatory workouts. But in all seriousness, like you couldn't be more right. I've started to notice that I can tell the difference in my attitude between whether I work out that day or not. Like it's a noticeable difference. It makes a huge difference, especially when you're in a 5x5 space with yourself for 8 to 10 hours, depending on your day. Um, this is all amazing advice.
Yeah.
I would add to that, much less deeper. When people ask you what you do, don't say just an SDR.
Oh my God,
just
I hate
say,
that.
I'm an SDR. That's one of the things. So when I was, I don't know, 5, 6 months in, that's one of those things where people would be like, what do you do? Oh, I'm just in sales development. And then I stopped saying it. I was like, nope, not doing it anymore. And all of a sudden, like, your internal voice changes a little bit. You get a little bit more confident with your role. So
No, but
if, you know,
yeah. My bad. Didn't mean to cut you off, but like I feel you so much, and they even worse is when you do it to the prospects, right? The prospect will ask you a pricing question of some sort. Oh no, I'm just the scheduler. Like all I do is schedule meetings, and I'm just here. Like, no, you're not. You're not just a scheduler. You're an expert in your field, right? And that's crucial because it seems like a little statement, but that's mindset, right? That's mindset. When you don't think of yourself like that, you think of yourself as someone who is, the top of the funnel for a company, the most, one of the most important roles in a company. You're the first person to speak to prospects. You're setting up all the opportunities in pipeline in the company. You're bringing the revenue so that they can pay out the marketing team and the CS team and the sales ops team. So it's those little things that I listen to, and I ask that real quick. Like when they say those things, I'm just an SDR.
Yeah, it made a huge difference in my career. Love to hear that you axe it out and tell people to stop as soon as they do.
Sure.
So where can people connect with you? I know a ton of people who listen will probably already have you on LinkedIn like I do. Is that where to go?
Yeah, that's where to go, man. I mean, I deleted all my social media like a few years ago, besides LinkedIn. And I get the question all the time, like, why? And my answer is pretty simple. It doesn't make me a better person, right? And I just kind of leave it at that, which is true. And it's like about kind of just trying to minimize those things that don't make you better. So yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. Request me, leave a comment, DM me. I'm open to talk or get on podcasts or just, chop it up about life. So I'm trying to get myself out there, build my brand up, and help people at the same time.
Cool. I'll include a link in the show notes so you can connect directly with you.
Cool.
So for anybody that's interested in that, just go to the show notes. There's literally going to be a big red button that says connect with Jesse.
Awesome.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. I really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, man. I loved it. And keep doing what you're doing. This was awesome.
Thanks, Jesse.
Alrighty.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you like this episode, make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or even our show notes, and make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll see you next week.